Hello and welcome to my new video. Today I want to take you on a train trip with LGB's first US diesel locomotive, the ALCO DL535E. US manufacturers had been working on diesel locomotives since the 1920s. At that time, ALCO, the American locomotive company, was considered as the steam locomotive super manufacturer. At the beginning of World War II, the big boy was the peak in the development of mainline locomotives. But with this they missed more and more the connection to the new diesel age. This market was increasingly served by General Motors EMD, the electromotive division, with the ENF series. The first model of this series appeared in the late 1930s and is today, like the big boy, a cult locomotive in the USA. While ALCO struggled with the changeover to diesel mainline locomotives, EMD appeared with a new GP and later SD series and became the typical US freight locomotive. Unlike the self-supporting ENF series, its main components were mounted on a base frame for easy access. This wasn't a revolution in locomotive design, but they created an inexpensive, robust and very successful system and replaced ALCO as the largest locomotive manufacturer in the USA. But where does our White Pass fit in here? Nowhere really, because it was rather unique in almost every respect. A new 6-axle locomotive made of ALCO components for the barely existing market of narrow gauge railroads. Built by a company that was struggling for economic existence. And that's not all. ALCO's US plant was closed while the White Pass locos were still being built, and from their construction was taken over by the Montreal Locomotive Works, an ALCO subsidiary company since 1904, which also took over later repeat orders. White Pass initially ordered 7 locomotives, but had to reorder 3 after a fire in 1971. But unlike the prototype, the LGB model was quite successful. And while I was working on this video, I found different reproduction sizes for model trains in the USA too. With sizes between 1 to 20 and 1 to 32, the variation range is also greater than in Germany. But they make a greater distinction between LGB's G. George and Märklin Gauche 1 trains, which were launched in 1969 as a reaction to the LGB trains. Other US suppliers, Bachmann, Dalton, Kalamazoo, Lion, Rear or USA trains, offered items for the 45mm gauge too, but only cars, accessories and steam locomotives. The only Garden US diesel loco at all was the EMD F40PH from Great Trains. But from today's perspective, it was far away from a convincing model reproduction. A good base for a new model actually, but after LGB's unpleasant disputes with Rear, today better known as Aristocraft, they were very cautious. LGB of America had already been founded, but was still in its infancy. The first boxes of this series, developed in 1988, were hand-signed by Wolfgang Richter as a certificate of authenticity, to be distributed only by selected US dealers as an exclusive model from the beginning of 1989. But these first models were still a pre-series production and lacked many inscriptions. The reactions to this model were very positive. Announced in the 1989 flyer for new models, it was not available worldwide until 1990. In Germany, you had to pay 945 marks, while at the same time a Steins without steam did only cost 275 marks. Basically, it consists of a floor frame that already had holes for a speaker and to which the two bogies are attached. Cap and engine hood were the same in all versions, but the long engine hood could be variably equipped, so that different designs became possible. The locomotive also had the now common triple slide switch on the roof, which allowed it to switch between 3 different settings: completely off, with lights on only, and running with lights. But the first blue, orange, white version wasn't selling very well. It was listed as a discontinued model until 2000, and even the various US special series could not change the fact that it remained as one of the less sold models compared to later ones. 2 new variants followed in 1991, the first being the blue 2155S, which was already a special feature in the LGB program. It was the first sound locomotive whose sound was not generated electronically, but recorded from real trains and reproduced digitally, as it is common today. The quality was already really good, but unfortunately the sounds always ran one after the other and could not yet switch individually. The second year release was the black Rio Grande 2056, which was the result of the LGB convention of the Queen Mary as the first model in the series. The locomotive space was the EMD model SD40, which has not much in common with the ALCO model. But LGB had not much work to do, as it only consisted of a different roof and different parts on the engine hood. The interesting fact about this Queen Mary series is that you only find in the English catalog clearly stated that these are not real existing prototypes, which isn't something you find in the German catalog. However, LGB writes since 2016, with new publications, that it concerns a locomotive in the design of an SD40. Over the years, LGB has released numerous variants of North American railroads and some special and limited editions, partly only available in the USA. As likable as all these models are, the prototype remains a narrow gauge locomotive. Although there would still have been a market, Aristocraft didn't come out until 1992, USA trains as late as 1995, a standard gauge diesel locomotive with the possibility of countless printing variations was never developed. The scale does not quite fit LGB's own specifications, but it harmonized quite well with the other LGB rolling stock. And in contrast to other manufacturers, they have no problems with R1. It remains a compromise between detail, driving characteristics and price, but in my opinion, it's a rather well executed one. Additionally, you can find a link on my YouTube community page with all existing models and their release dates. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please leave a like, subscription or a comment.